About a year ago, I set out on a quest to give the Game Boy Advance SP features we'd find on a modern handheld. That effort culminated with what became dubbed the Thicc Boi SP. This gave the console a standard 3.5mm headphone jack, USB-C charging, wireless charging, Bluetooth audio, and a larger battery. However, it was tedious to install and resulted in a rat's nest of wires. However, the Thicc Boi has now entered into a new stage of finesse and refinement with a much easier installation. Let's take a look. Hey everyone, how's it going? My name is Tito and welcome to a special episode of Retro Renew. I've been wanting to share this project with you for a very long time. Today we're going to take a look at the latest and nearly final iteration of the Thicc Boi SP project. For those of you who have been following the channel for a while, you'll know that this journey started way back about a year ago in August of 2020 when I attempted to add wireless charging to the SP. While that project ended up being successful, the wireless charging module didn't quite fit in the original SP shell, which I later tried to fix with a smaller and thinner battery. Not long after I made that video, my good friend Kyle reached out offering to help make a case add-on to create more space for the wireless charging mod. This again was successful, and we even had enough space to add wireless Bluetooth audio. I then thought, why stop at Bluetooth and wireless charging? Let's get everything we could ever want in an SP into a single package. So Kyle completely redesigned the bottom shell of the SP to house all of these add-ons. We added wireless charging, Bluetooth audio, USB-C charging, a 3.5mm headphone jack, and a larger battery. And thus, the Thicc Boi SP was born. I mean, look at this thing, it's pretty beefy. By all accounts, we were successful. However, the installation process was quite difficult and tedious, and as you can see here, it resulted in a rat's nest of wires. I just knew there had to be a better way. Over the past couple years, I've noticed that flat flex cables have become increasingly more prevalent as mods became more sophisticated. They allowed for cleaner and easier installations. This is apparent in all the videos I've done on HDMI modded consoles such as the DC Digital for the Dreamcast, the PS1 digital for the original PlayStation, and the more recent HDMI mod for the Nintendo 64. These all used flat flex cables. So while flat flex cables have been transforming the home console modding scene, some have also been appearing on handhelds as well. Helder has been doing fantastic work with flex cable based mods on handheld consoles, such as his Game Boy Macro Flex Amp, which I covered previously on this channel. So having tried several of his mods and really liking how they were made, I reached out to Helder and asked if he'd be interested in helping me with this project, and thankfully he agreed. Helder would be the final piece in making the Thicc Boi SP a viable mod. So after a lot of hard work from Kyle with his shell design, and Helder with his work on the PCB and flex cable, I present to you the Thicc Boi SP. Now this project would absolutely not have been possible without the work from both Kyle and Helder. Alright, so in this video, I'm going to go over the parts of the Thicc Boi SP kit, show you how to install it, go over all the features of this mod, and to discuss with you all our plans to make this into an actual kit for those of you who are interested in getting one. Yep, that's right, we fully intend to make this kit available to the public, but I'll go more into that a little bit later in the video. First, let's go over what we're planning the kit to look like. Now please do keep in mind this is a working prototype and the final design will most likely be a little bit different. Starting with the first item, we have this custom PCB designed by Helder. You'll notice that this one is fully assembled with the Bluetooth module here, as well as all the other various components. And on the back, we have the wireless charging module. We're planning for the PCBs to come fully assembled just as you see it here, making the installation process that much easier. Next, we have the flat flex cable. This has been specifically designed to work with the vast majority of SP consoles. There is, however, one SP motherboard revision that will require 2 additional wires to be soldered. But, as I said, this will work for the vast majority of SP consoles. Both the flat flex and the PCB again were designed by Helder. Next up, we have the custom bottom shell, which gives the SP its thickness. It has been designed to simply replace the original bottom shell with no modifications of any kind required. You even reuse the original screws. Here you can see the openings for all the various ports and the Bluetooth pairing button, as well as the cartridge slot on the other side. Also included is this bracket and replacement pins which will hold the L&R triggers. Kyle has done a really fantastic job designing these components, however he is still making refinements to the design. And the last item included in the kit is one of the primary reasons why this mod makes the SP so thick. This enormous 4500 mAh lithium polymer battery, which is also from Helder, will give your SP an incredibly long runtime. It's 7.5 times larger than the original SP battery. I'll be doing a battery test at the end of the video to show you the crazy amount of playtime this battery provides. I'll be running the test on a completely kitted out SP with an IPS screen on full brightness while also using a flash card, so definitely be sure to stay tuned for that. Okay, so hopefully that gives you an idea of what the kit will potentially look like. Again, this is a prototype and the final version will look a bit different. Regardless, let me show you how to put this kit together. It's fairly straightforward, with ease of installation being a top priority when it was being designed. Let's take a look. Alright, so I'm doing this mod on an SP that has already been modded with an IPS screen. I have several videos that show you how to do that, so definitely check out the channel if you're interested. The first step is to of course remove the battery and the 6 tri-point screws holding on the rear shell. Once the bottom shell is removed, begin to unfasten the 3 Phillips screws securing the motherboard. Then gently lift the motherboard at a slight angle and delatch the LCD ribbon cable as shown. Carefully lift off the motherboard, being cognizant of the wire for the IPS brightness control, which is still connected. Just quickly touch it with the iron and it should come off easily. Now that we have the motherboard free, we need to pre-tin a few points to prep the board for the flex ribbon cable. First up is the VIA P35, which is responsible for the speaker mute function. Then we have SO1 and SO2, which are the left and right audio channels which will be used for Bluetooth. Then we need to pre-tin the lower pads of these 2 capacitors, which are for the left and right audio channels for the headphones. And lastly, pre-tin the VIA B positive, which will power the entire mod. Great, now that all the necessary points are soldered, place the flex ribbon cable as shown using these 2 pins as guides. Once in position, solder these 2 points. There is enough residual solder on these pins to make the connection, no need for additional solder. Next, solder the P35 VIA to this pad on the flex cable. Then do the same for SO1 and SO2. The solder points to the capacitors are slightly misaligned, but this will be corrected in the final version of the mod. And lastly, make the connection to B positive. And this is how all the connections should look like. Fantastic. The flex cable has been installed. If you have an IPS mod installed, now is a good time to solder the brightness control wire back to the VIA labeled Q12B. Once done, go ahead and reconnect the IPS ribbon cable back to the motherboard. And then secure it back in place with the 3 Phillips screws. Now we need to prep the bottom shell. At an angle, simply align the Thicc Boi's I/O to the openings in the shell and then push it into place. Check to ensure everything is aligned correctly and that the Bluetooth pairing button can actuate properly. Next, drop in the trigger bracket and the pins. Then install both the L&R triggers as shown. Great. Once that's done, go ahead and insert the flat flex cable into the ZIF connector on the Thicc Boi's PCB. And then connect the battery to the JST connector, ensuring that the polarity is correct. Then drop in the battery and tuck away the excess wires. Don't forget to put the power switch back in, and then sandwich the two halves together. Using the original SP screws, go ahead and button up the console. And that's it. That's how you install the Thicc Boi SP mod. So overall, thanks to the incredible PCB and flex ribbon cable design, I'd say this mod is a ton easier than it used to be. With that said, let's go over all the features this kit brings to the table. First, let's start with the most obvious. This console is now significantly thicker than it used to be. In fact, it's just over 1.5 inches thick, or about 40 millimeters. The first thing you may be asking is, how does it feel in the hands? And to be honest, I think it feels great. The original SP is a bit cramped, especially when compared to the original Game Boy Advance, so the thicker base is a welcome change. It gives you more to grab onto, and I think it's quite comfortable. However, its portability is significantly diminished. I mean, you're not going to reasonably be able to put this thing in your pocket. Regardless, with all the amazing new capability, I think portability is a small price to pay. Next, we have the 3.5mm headphone jack. This is something Nintendo removed when they transitioned from the original GBA to the SP. Thankfully, this kit adds it back, and it functions exactly as it should. By plugging in some headphones, this mod will switch the speaker off and feed audio directly to your headphones. And of course, the volume is controlled by the slider as you'd expect. One thing you do need to be aware of is that this will only work with standard TRS headphones. You can tell if your headphones are TRS by the 2 rings shown here. Headphones that are TRSS have 3 rings and are not compatible with this mod. TRSS headphones typically feature a microphone. The other audio option is wireless Bluetooth audio. Using my Sony WH-1000 XM2 Bluetooth headphones, I was able to easily pair them to the Thicc Boi. 2 things that you need to be aware of is that our Bluetooth module is not compatible with Apple's AirPods. This is something that may change, however, as we finalize the Bluetooth module we'll be using for the final production version. So be sure to subscribe to the channel because I'll be posting periodic updates on this kit. Another thing that you need to be aware of is that there is a small bit of latency when using Bluetooth. Allow me to demonstrate. So as you can see, the latency isn't too much, but it is there. Now that we got the audio mods out of the way, let's talk about the power mods. First, we added USB-C charging. Helder designed the charging circuit to utilize 3 amps of power. That essentially means charge times should be relatively quick, which is great, especially considering the size of the battery we'll be using. The other charging method is wireless through the coil on the bottom of the console. This amazingly also charges the console at 3 amps, so you should get the same quick charging as you would through the USB-C port. And you can of course charge the console through its original port as well, however it utilizes the original SP's charging circuit, which is far less powerful than the USB-C and wireless charging methods, so it will take a long time to charge your console, but you do still have it as an option. Now all these methods of charging can be done while playing the console, although not sure how practical it would be to play the console while charging wirelessly, but it can be done nonetheless. The last feature of this mod is the enormous battery. At 4500 mAh, it is roughly 7.5 times larger than the original 600 mAh battery. That means very long play sessions and a lot of time in between charging. I'll be doing a battery test at the end of the video just to show you how much battery life this thing boasts, so be sure to stay tuned for that. Now all these features are great, but they really don't mean anything if it's really difficult to install the kit. Thankfully, one of the great things is that as you saw in the installation tutorial, it's not all too bad. However, that doesn't mean it's for everyone since there is a fair bit of fine soldering. But it is leaps and bounds easier than soldering individual wires like in previous versions of this mod. Okay, so now that you're familiar with all the features, let me tell you what our plan is to getting these things out in the wild. So our biggest hurdle to getting the Thicc Boi to market are the shells themselves. We want them to be as high quality as possible, so we decided we wanted to get molds made for proper injection molded ABS plastic shells that are similar in quality to the original SP shell. This requires a significant amount of upfront capital, so we decided that we'll use Kickstarter or something similar for this project. We already have a working design for the shell, but we still need to perfect it and get it optimized for injection molding. Other than that, the electronics side is pretty much completed. However, we are looking at suppliers to source the required bill of material for the mod. And like I stated before, we are looking at sourcing better and more capable parts, such as an updated Bluetooth module that will hopefully be compatible with Apple's AirPods. But besides that, we are hoping to launch the campaign sometime in the next couple months. So if this is something you're interested in, be sure to subscribe to the channel because I'll definitely be doing periodic update videos on this project to keep you all informed on progress. And if you're a Patreon member, I'll be posting some behind the scenes pictures of progress for the kits as well. Great, so before we wrap things up, let me show you what this battery is capable of. I'm going to be running the IPS screen on the Thicc Boi on its highest brightness setting, while also using the Easy Flash Omega flash card. This should demonstrate one of the most power demanding scenarios for a standard SP console. But with the Thicc Boi specs, I think you'll be very impressed. So I think it's safe to say that the results speak for themselves. The 4500 mAh battery is a beast and should be more than enough to power all of your power-hungry mods. Anyway guys, that about does it for this video. I'm super excited that I got to share this new mod with you, and again, huge thank you to Kyle and Helder for making the Thicc Boi a reality. If you have any questions about the mod, or are just as excited as I am about it, let me know down below in the comments. And again, if you want to stay up to date on this project, be sure to subscribe to the channel, as well as my other social media outlets, which I'll have linked in the video description below. Until then, see you all next Thursday.